realized I've been to the DMV 7 times this year. 7. And when I actually think back on it, every one of those visits was like 2 hours. 2 hours on top of 2 hours on top of 2 hours. Just sitting there. And nothing particularly dramatic ever happened. Nobody screamed at me. I wasn't fighting with anybody. Most of the time I would just wait, get called up, find out there was one more thing I needed to do, and leave. Then I would come back. And somehow, after enough trips, the DMV became this thing in my life, which sounds stupid, because going to the DMV is not difficult, at least not in the way I normally think of difficulty. You sit in a chair, you wait for a number, you hand somebody some papers, sometimes they hand them back, then you leave. But there are things I've done that required way more effort than that somehow occupied less space in my head. And I think that's the part I've been stuck on, because between those visits I wasn't at the DMV, but apparently some part of me was. There was basically a tiny DMV department operating in the back of my head. Nobody worked there full time. Apparently somebody just came in every couple hours, turned the lights on, reminded me that I still had a DMV situation, and left. And it wasn't even taking up enough attention for me to call it a thought. It was more like cognitive rent. Although I don't even know if that makes sense, because plenty of things live in my head for free, but this one kept coming back. I still need to do that. Did I bring the right title? Did I sign that? Do I need another document? Did I already do this part? Is this actually finished? And none of these thoughts were important enough for me to seriously sit down and think about. That almost made it worse, because you don't block off an hour of your day to think about the DMV. It just appears for 5 seconds while you're doing something completely unrelated, then disappears, then comes back tomorrow. And by the 3rd or 4th trip, I started running into the same lady at the counter 3 times in a row. And she didn't even have to say anything anymore. I would walk up and she would give me one of those looks where you can tell somebody is thinking, "What the hell are you doing here again?" And now I have to calmly, but also kind of awkwardly, explain that I'm trying to transfer the plate from the same car to the other car, back to the car, 3 times over, a Honda Civic, a Honda Accord, back to the Honda Civic. And I'm standing there trying to explain this like a normal administrative procedure, while probably looking like a human being who is existentially contemplating his life direction through 2 Hondas. At some point, I don't even know if I was transferring plates anymore. It felt like I was negotiating with my own automotive identity. And by the 6th time I was there, the DMV had basically entered the breakfast routine category. I knew the building, I knew where I was going. I sat down like, all right, we're here again. And there are like 8 other ladies working there, and I remember sitting there thinking, please do not put me with that lady again. Not because she had even done anything to me. I just couldn't emotionally withstand having to explain the Honda Civic and Honda Accord situation to the same human being one more time. And that's when this weird physical feeling would start. It almost felt like ants crawling down my back, except somehow the ants were crawling up my frontal lobe, like somebody poured gasoline somewhere behind my forehead and lit it. And externally, absolutely nothing was happening. I was sitting in a chair, that was it. But internally, I'm looking over the title sheet and transfer paperwork 5 times, then looking again, then mentally slapping myself. Check it again, check it again. There is one thing you are forgetting. There has to be. And the bodily sensation was almost like when you have to take a shit. But, if you sat on the toilet right now, you probably wouldn't actually be able to shit. So you're just sitting there kind of sweating. Nothing is technically wrong. Nothing is happening. But your body has apparently received intelligence that disaster is imminent. It felt like I could physically sense my hair follicles losing density over the possibility that there might be one little box I forgot to check. And I would go through everything, 5 times, maybe 10 times, mentally slap myself another 10 times. You're good. You have everything. There is no possible way you forgot something again. Then my number gets called. I look up. Same lady, of course. I walk over, hand her everything, and what do you know, I forgot something for the 4th time. And I think that's where the DMV stopped being a place. There was now just a DMV situation. That's when you know something has changed, when a building becomes a situation. And I started wondering why something so objectively small could occupy that much psychological space. Maybe unfinished things are just heavier than difficult things, but I don't even know if I believe that, because there are unfinished things in my life that I barely think about. Things that are probably way more important than whether I correctly transferred a license plate between two Hondas. So maybe it isn't incompleteness, maybe it's uncertainty. Because every time I thought I understood the process, another little requirement appeared. And eventually you stop trusting your understanding of the thing. Even when you have the paper, even when you have the system, even when you've checked it 5 times, some part of you is still standing next to it, watching. And I've noticed I do this with other things too. Sometimes I'll build a system specifically so I don't have to think about something anymore. I organize it. I make the procedure obvious. I remove most of the ambiguity. The machine is running. And then I stand behind the machine watching the machine run. Sometimes I basically build another machine to watch the first machine. And then I stand behind both of them. At that point, I don't even know what I automated, because technically the thing is handled. Nothing is currently wrong. There may literally be nothing for me to do, and yet some employee in the back of my head is apparently still clocked in. That's the strange part. There seems to be some delay between reality becoming handled and you experiencing reality as handled, and I don't know what controls that delay, because some things disappear from your mind immediately, other things echo, sometimes for no obvious reason. Maybe the point of a system isn't actually reducing work. Maybe it's reducing how much consciousness something requires. But those apparently aren't the same thing, and I don't know why I assumed they were. I know what I'm trying to describe here, but I also don't completely know what I'm trying to describe, which is annoying because I can feel the thing pretty clearly. Eventually, I did get everything handled at the DMV. At least I think I did. Actually, see? That's exactly what I mean.